everyone for joining us. We have attendees filing into the Friday forum this morning, so we're going to give things just a minute or two to get started. So we allow all of our attendees to be able to join. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Smith. I am the Director of Offshore Wind for the Hampton Roads Alliance. The Alliance is the regional economic development organization for the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. And I want to again welcome you today to the first CVOW Friday Forum of January 2022. These are a series of events that the Hampton Roads Alliance and Dominion Energy have been partnering on over the last year to help particularly the Virginia business community and others understand opportunities about offshore wind and particularly about the CVOW project. So we have a fantastic panel for you here today. We have representatives from some of the major suppliers for the CVOW project, and they will be talking with you all about potential opportunities for subcontracting on the project and how to prepare for those opportunities. So we also have a fantastic host, Will Keenan with Dominion Energy. He's the manager of generation projects and also leading a supply chain engagement team. So before we get started, just want to let you all know that we want this to be an interactive discussion. So you have some options to submit questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box down there. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, you can see that. We prefer you to put questions in the Q&A rather than the chat. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Will to start the forum.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. Thank you. And good morning, all. As Matt kind of indicated, my name is Will Keenan. I'm the manager of generation projects here at Dominion, specifically on the CVOW project. And I am proud to serve as the moderator for today's Friday Forum. So this morning, you're going to hear from representatives from each one of our prime contractors who are involved in the construction of the nation's largest offshore wind project and how you can get involved. So the intent of this discussion would be to familiarize each of you with the companies with whom we've partnered to construct this monumental project, as well as what you need to do in preparation to participate in their Virginia procurement activities. So Dominion's corporate goal to a clean energy future by achieving net zero by 2050, in combination with the Virginia Clean Economy Act, positions the company to look for opportunities to undertake projects that will serve the communities in which we live, and also include local businesses, workers, in the development and construction of these projects. This allows each of us to participate in the rapidly expanding clean energy industry in the United States. Dominion Energy takes pride in our local communities, and with respect to CVOW, we want to see Virginia businesses like yours succeed in the building of an offshore wind supply chain hub in Hampton Roads. So I'd now like to introduce each of our panelists and what they envision as opportunities for you to get involved. So first up, I'd like to turn it over to Sid with Demi. Sid, if you could introduce your team and what your company is doing on CVOW.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and nice to meet everybody virtually here today. And again, thanks for the opportunity, Will. So some of my colleagues are listening in and online, and if some of the questions come up that I can't answer personally, I'm going to draw on them with their huge amount of resources and expertise to be able to answer some of the questions that may come up or may not. But Bart Seekens is our project director. Pieter Van Gheluwe is our consortium project coordinator. Got Lila Matu, who is our local purchasing representative, and Eric Empey is on the phone with us, or on the line with us, and he is our director of operations for the U.S. activities. A little bit about Demi. We're part of a Belgian group, the Demi Group. About 5 years ago, by design, DEMI made a strategic decision to open an office in the US in advance of the activities that are beginning to now show up in offshore wind. The approach was very deliberate, and they did this so they could begin developing a supply chain, not only with suppliers and vendors, but working closely to develop partnerships in the US offshore wind industry. The decision provided an opportunity to invest in knowledge transfer that DEMI has created over years and years of offshore wind activities, as well as prepare our partners as the projects begin to emerge. I mean, during this period, we introduced DEMI as a US company and cultivated the supply chain in New England all the way to Virginia. Our goal was not to have a European company try to change the way we do business here in the US, but our goal was to make it a US company and help train and work with the US firms about offshore wind. So with that said, we've identified and developed partnerships in the US, engaged in maritime institutes to train and locate or train local people for offshore wind. We've engaged in unions and local suppliers. We've developed Jones Act compliant solutions for installation scopes. And in our US office right now, our corporate office is actually in Boston, Massachusetts. And our plans are to open up offices in Virginia and Rhode Island as well. We've been in business for over 150 years, operate worldwide. Some of our statistics include installation of 72 wind farms, contributed to 21 gigawatts of capacity, installed 2,100 foundations, 2,600 turbines, many thousands of tons of scour protection, and an installation of 3,000 kilometers of cable. So that's the introduction to the company. Do you want me to continue with the scope as well, Will, or do you want me to stop there and let others introduce their companies first?
No, I think that's good. We actually have a follow-up question on scope that we'll get to here in just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sid. All right, next up, Fabrizio with Prysmian.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity. I really would like to look forward to meet all the stakeholders also face to face, but in this occasion, let's try to get the best from this virtual session. First of all, my name is Fabrizio Traversi. I'm leading the project and contract management for Prysmian in the US. So I'm looking to all the projects in the US for these two disciplines. And we should have, I don't know, Matt, if you managed to invite also Riccardo in the panelist, Riccardo Guidoni with me today to answer to all the questions which are more on the technical aspects of the project. Prior to start, some information about Prysmian. In short, Prysmian is the world leader in the energy and telecom cable system industry. Is basically a cable manufacturer. We are present in more than 50 countries and we have more than 100 plants where we manufacture, I would say, all the different types of cables. We are divided in 3 business units, energy, telecom, and projects. And when a cable becomes a unique system or not anymore a product, of course, this is treated as a project and is treated within the project business unit. The project business unit that is also a standalone legal entity called Prysmian Powerlink is based in Milan. Our headquarters is in Milan, but we are serving, we are performing projects in all the countries of the world. At the moment, we have in our portfolio around 60 operative projects. And in the US, the portfolio is growing quite significantly in the last months or years, I would say, in consideration of what we were saying at the beginning of the meeting. So the US is basically for sure a country which is investing a lot in the new energy and in the renewables, and we see a trend of growth in this kind of projects. We have been contracted by Dominion in consortium with DEME. So with DEME, we are basically forming a consortium called DEMIAN. And within the consortium, the role of Prysmian is to contribute with the engineering, with the project management. We have basically the manufacturing of the cables, both export and inter-array. The manufacturing of the cables will actually be done in Europe, where we have submarine cable plants. And the cable will be transported to the US and installed both by Prysmian and by DEME with different vessels. So as you said at the beginning, we may be entering the detail of the scope during the meeting, but in essence, this is the key facts.
Excellent. Thank you, Fabrizio. Next up, we have John with CJAX.
Hi, good morning, everybody. John from CJAX here, of course, John Vingoe. So I'm in the UK. CJAX, as you probably well know, we have a partnership with Dominion to operate a new build vessel, a new build jackup vessel. It's called Charybdis. It's being built in Texas, scheduled for delivery like end of 2023. Where we will first do a project for Ørsted actually, and then we move on to Dominion work later on. But yeah, very happy to be here, and if I can help in any way, I will. I think from a supplier assessment perspective and everything, how we normally do our business, we're quite normally very European sort of centric, but we are out in Asia now at the moment, and of course we will end up in the US. And I think all I can say at the moment is our policy is to favor US supply chain and US services where it's at all possible. And I dare say we'll get into some of that today. But yeah, great to be here and ask any questions, and I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, last but not least, Fernando with Siemens Gamesa.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm representing Siemens Gamesa. I'm the SBLO for Siemens, the Supplier Business Liaison Officer. So right now we have implemented this process 2 years ago, looking for more local suppliers, the localization process that I'm working for Siemens in US, specifically speaking US, with Dominion. We have some specific targets that we are looking for more local suppliers, especially for the projects that we are involved, that we're gonna, in the factory that we're gonna have for 2023. We are expecting to have more actions this year in fiscal year 22 to try to identify more local suppliers for Virginia in order to have this localization process in place. I'm representing not only offshore, but also onshore in service. So overall here, the main concept is to bring more small business diverse suppliers, not only for offshore, but for Virginia. We have a specific target internally that we are very aligned with procurement. We have created a specific policy internally as well, that we're gonna be including some bonus as well in our total cost analysis for small business in order to increase our pipeline. So that's the main concept that we have right now. I was discussing also this morning with my peers here, and we would like to have a supplier day at Virginia, if possible this year, in order to, to identify more potential suppliers that we can use for fiscal year 23. So that's the overall information regarding Siemens Gamesa. I don't know if there's any questions, feel free to reach me out as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Fernando. So moving on, I do have a few questions here that I want to address with each one of the prime contractors. Some of these questions have been received ahead of time, and I think that it's important information for each one of our contractors here to address specifically. So heading down the list, I'll give everyone an opportunity here to discuss, but starting off with you, Sid, what scope specifically will DEMI be undertaking in Virginia?
So thanks for the question, and I appreciate the opportunity to mention this because a lot of people really aren't completely aware of what our scope is. So we share a scope, I think, as Fabrizio mentioned earlier, we share a scope with our consortium member, Prysmian. DEMI Offshore US is the lead of the consortium, but our group is extremely connected through a well thought out synergies through competitive scope splits. Our team collectively, we are doing the transportation and installation of 176 monopile TP foundations, including the temporary storage at the US terminal, PMT. We have the rock placement works for scour protection of these 176 foundation locations, as well as 27 cable crossings. Our transport and installation of 3 offshore substations. And then we have an EPCI of infield and export cables manufactured by Prysmian and installation by both DEMI and Prysmian during the period of 2023 through 2026. So that's our scope. It's you know, begun developing for quite a while, and we're very fortunate to have a very competent group of contractors and subcontractors working so far with us in developing the project, and that's what DEMI's scope is, along with Prysmian. I know Fabrizio already mentioned some of his scope, so you may want to again reiterate it, but that's what our scope is. Well.
Yeah, appreciate that, Sid. Fabrizio, anything to add on the Prysmian side?
Yeah, following what Sid already said, I can add that, of course, Prysmian is not involved in the transportation and installation of the steel structures such as jacket and foundations, but only for the activities, I would say, cable related. In this project, we have 2 different types of cables. The primary one, I would say, is the export cable, connecting the land with the offshore platform. And then the inter-array cables, which are connecting the offshore platforms with all the windmills. It's not just installation of cables, but also all the preparation of the route must be done. And in these regards, the Prysmian scope is including some surveys and the so-called pre-lay grapnel run before the cable laying. And then we are involved with all the activities on the shore side, connected with the pulling of the cables through HDDs or through whichever means will be selected to bring the cables from offshore to shore. Yeah, then we might have the need of all the logistic related support, such as local agencies, local port to manage the logistics of our vessels and our personnel. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Fabrizio.
Welcome.
John, same question to you. What does CJAC scope entail, specifically in Virginia?
Yes, of course. So it's mainly turbine installation. We don't have scope for the foundations this time, but one point of interest, I guess, to the audience is we have to supervise the design and the build of the grillage for the turbines, and that of course has to be built in the US. So I think we have an event coming up in April, I think. So we have got some people that we normally execute this work with here, and we're traveling to the US to actually seek to find suitable yards to construct the grillage on behalf of Dominion and Ørsted, of course. But yeah, that's the main scope of our work so far. Of course, the main focus of our attention at the moment is the delivery of the vessel. That's the important part at the moment, getting that delivered on time, on budget, and then of course the lead up to the operational phase, you know, the first project that we have to execute with it. That's it, really.
Excellent. Thank you, John.
You're
All
welcome.
right, Fernando, can you describe Siemens Gamesa's scope in Virginia?
Right now, yes. Right now in Virginia, we have 2 turbines running, right? And I was just checking this morning. Our major scope at Virginia is going to be 2023. In this fiscal year 22, I was explaining, we're going to be focusing on all kind of service that we have to hire for our factory, right? The big project that we have. So all kind of service related to manufacturing, labor, also cranes, major components, minor components, and also maintenance, all this kind of service that we have to keep the inside of our manufacturing. We will be also looking for local suppliers to support us at Virginia. So for sure, for cranes and transportation, also logistics, all those kind of service we're going to be looking as well. But also part of the indirect procurement, I think would be the most achievable target that we're going to have, you know, all kind of service on the indirect procurement. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. So under the same guidelines of what scope is being undertaken in Virginia, what services do we see as being needed to be locally sourced here in Virginia? Sid, I'll let you go first. Sid, I believe you're on mute.
And thanks, Will. I want to make sure that people understand and sort of work through these expectations with us. I mean, some of the, when you mentioned 2023 or 2024, it really seems like a long way out, but in reality, it's right around the corner to us. There's so much that needs to be put in place to prepare for the project and the ramping up of the project. Answering the solicitation and getting onto our registration site early will help us develop a dialogue with people that we think will be able to help service our industry. So the answer to your question is the first thing that we're going to be looking at are people and jobs. And our staff will largely come from a mix of European and US people. We need project engineers, we need administrative support staff, we need health, safety, environmental staff. In the coming year, when we start work in 2023 at PMT, we're going to need onshore works personnel to help develop the PMT site. When the offshore work starts in 2024, we'll be looking at personnel such as riggers, welders, and that sort of thing that are going to be needed for the offshore scope. In the near term, we're currently looking for offices in the Norfolk area. We're going to need local accommodations, housing, apartments, hotels, accommodations such as that. And then for external consultancy work, we're going to be looking for contract administration, legal services, permitting, and engineering services in general. I mean, that's a lot to get ready to move forward. As you can tell that, you know, getting these people and services on board will help us ramp up the project quickly and with efficiency. When the actual work actually starts here, onshore marshaling scope at PMT, we'll be working together with PMT and a marshaling contractor. So that work starts from the end of 2023. And those services will include site security and management, for an example. Again, health, safety, and environmental staff, local personnel such as riggers and stevedores, local equipment, cranes, forklifts, etc. Activities that relate to the main vessels and tools which will be used come to port will need vessels and shipping agents, pilots, steel workers and welders, hydraulic services, vessel repair services, bunkering, etc. And also support vessels will be needed. Scout vessels for noise monitoring, CTVs, barges and tugs, PSVs. All these are local procurement needs, and we will be focusing mainly right now as well on the scour protection and rock needed for the project. So that's a brief list of what we're going to need. There's going to be significant other activities that develop and needs as we develop. And so that I hope that provides a bit of information, Will, for the listeners. You know.
No, very thorough. Appreciate that, Sid. Fabrizio, same question to you. What will you see Prysmian needing to source locally?
Well, I should say that Sid already covered most of the items that we will also need, and I share a big portion of what he has described. In particular, also Prysmian is looking to establish a local presence in Virginia, hopefully soon, and therefore we might need to recruit some resource also over there to work under project management and engineering. Then we in terms of scope, we will start the majority of our activity in 2024. Actually, so we think that in the next couple of years we have time to prepare for all these works. In particular, the big packages will be represented by, as I said before, the logistic of our vessel, and as per logistic, I also mean CTVs, guard vessel, like Sid was saying. And then we have, in terms of big scope, the assistance for the cable pulling that will take place from mid of 24 up to mid of 25, I believe, in which we will definitely send out a tender with a clear scope of work, and we will need to look for partners to support Prysmian in this activity. Can we ask maybe Riccardo to detail a bit more when it comes especially to logistic?
Yes, no, but maybe also to add on your last point, the pull-in, for sake of clarity, is referred to the landfall activities. So we will need to pull our export cables to land to the final location at the transition joint bay. And for that, we will need support from local subcontractors on land with pulling winches and people, rollers to guide the cable to the final position, as well as near shore on the offshore side to control the cable that will be floated from our cable laying vessel, cable laying barge, Ulisse, to the land. Fabrizio already gave you a quick overview on the logistic for the local procurement. As mentioned by Sid before, we are looking for very similar services, vessel port agencies, as well as services for crew transfer in. So a crew transfer vessel for people. We will not have many of these transfers, but definitely this will be a service that we will look for, as well as a guard vessel. Guard vessel means for us a small boat that can patrol an area in which the cable is temporarily unprotected, if this may happen. So with the cable unburied, a small boat can patrol the area and make sure that nothing can put the cable in danger. Sid mentioned also stevedores and local labor in port. This will be needed for us as well. And basically, this is it, I will say, Fabrizio.
Yeah, most of the items have been covered by this description.
Excellent. Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you, Ricardo. Moving on to John. What about you? What services we need to be sourcing locally?
Yes, of course. So we have already sourced a local office. It's not really active yet. It's in Norfolk. And of course, there'll be an interface between ourselves and Dominion with how we staff that office, you know, but of course, there'll be US folk in there. In terms of the services we want to look for in the US, I think it's probably easier for me to explain that the services at the moment that we think we won't be able to get there, but and that's not very many, of course. So the vessel itself has European influence in its manufacture, you know, mainly with the crane, the propulsion system, the positioning systems and things like that. And we find from experience that these services and the providers that carry out this work are very specialized. So our main focus there will be to look for US representation for the people like sort of Houseman, Kongsberg, Norwegian Electrical Systems, these types of people, that because there is some very bespoke pieces of equipment that are being used to manufacture the Charybdis. Other than that, I would say it's an open book really in terms of US services. So of course we have to look for crew. We have to look for US crew, and we're already talking to providers for that. And then if I dare just sort of generalize, you know, the other services that we need to find fabrication services, fuel, water, warehousing, parts, you know, general firefighting equipment, tooling, all this sort of stuff. So anything we can buy in the US, clearly we're going to do that. You know, that's the spirit of being there in the first place, I think. Plus it's just easier. You know, it has to be, surely. So that's what we're going to try to do. So I think it's more, I think my message to the community out there would more be based on what we actually can't provide in the US. We will have to buy somewhere else, but that will be limited to very specific issues. Everything else, we will probably hunt high and low to try and find it in the local area to start with, or in the wider US region. I hope that's quite clear.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, John. All right, Fernando, same question for Siemens Gamesa. What services will you see needing to source locally?
I was just listening. I think we are covering almost of the service we have covered. You know, regarding equipments, consumable suppliers, supplies, cleaning companies as well that could help us in the manufacturing as well. All kind of labor service that we have at Virginia. Also, we are looking to localize for sure. Labor and cranes as well. When it comes to vessel, right? We also are looking here for main component and exchange in the vessels. We can also try to see if there is any local support regarding marine warrant surveyors, welders for sea fastening. That also be something that we can include in our pipeline. But again, it's open, as we were saying here, it's an open book. We also, I think the goal for a small business, diverse suppliers, it's we have to do kind of a workshop to understand how many local suppliers we have available. and then we can do a kind of a deep dive process, you know. That would be my target, yeah.
Thank you, Fernando. So moving on to the next question here, it's kind of a little bit more interpretation and specific needs to you, the prime contractors here. But Sid, we'll start off with you again. Can you share your views on the importance of the preparation for these companies in attendance today who are wanting to participate in your upcoming solicitations, and specifically looking at what they need to prepare for, you know, their safety and environmental records, contract sureties, any insurance requirements, any other key contractual matters that will help position them in such a way to be a successful bidder on upcoming work?
Sure, thank you for the question. I think this is a lot of different answers to this, but let me just start by saying what you covered above, Will, with the issues of environmental records, contract surety, insurance requirements. All of those are, you know, standard template activities that we would be looking at when we are vetting out potential suppliers and vendors. But our number one concern, and it always has been and always will be, is that we are looking very closely at the capabilities by way of training for offshore wind activities that surround safety related subject matters. So that's going to be one of our vetting points, is the safety records of the firms that are going to be participating. Suppliers' needs that we are going to be looking at, they're going to have to meet technical requirements for the scope, show experience where they can, and one of those, I mean, that bullet alone right there, I need to encourage people to apply, look at the opportunities and areas where you think you can support the project. And if there are special concerns, special needs that you might have, the DEMI can help with, we'll be glad to help. I mean, we need to hear from you, we need to understand, and we don't want to exclude anybody in the process. If there's a way of helping, we'll certainly do that. The other thing is quality requirements, compliance with ISO standards, safety ISO standards. We want to meet, they need to meet commercial requirements and contractual requirements. As part of our tender process, we will indicate in detail what is required. They can reach out to us early in the process in case they have questions. And I know Lila is posted the registration site, and she will be the point of contact for this. You know, offshore wind business might be new to those that indicate relevant experience in other sectors. This is important to know. So if you've done work in other sectors, let us know, and we'll see if we can sort of connect some dots for you there. Another requirement that we're going to be looking closely at is the issue of outreach and commitment to diversity and inclusion. We'll have a great deal of dialogue. That's going to be one of our requirements for our suppliers and vendors, that they not only, that the client not only relies on DEMI or Prismium, but we need to rely on our vendors and suppliers to make sure that they are as committed to diversity and inclusion as we are. So that will be a very important part of the vetting process. So, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sid. All right, Fabrizio, same question to you. What particulars do potential suppliers need to be aware of to be successful bidders? But then also, you know, kind of looking at what they need to currently be doing to position themselves to be successful bidders.
It's unfair that I need always to answer after Sid, because most of the answers are all the same. But I should say that, yes, when it comes to HSE, first of all, and certifications in general, also including quality certification, ISO standards, and so on, it is highly appreciated for us to select subcontractors or partners which can prove and show these kind of certifications as well, because it's easier to dialogue and to speak the same language. And really, in short, what another point that I would like to mention is that you know, when we work locally, sometimes we get to know with some local companies, of course, small size, which are extremely knowledgeable in terms of operations, but not strong enough in terms of engineering and documentation preparation. And unfortunately, this represents a limit that sometimes we cannot overcome, because we definitely need to bring on board partners which are able to develop documentation and engineering in general according to our standards, according to the client standards. So, of course, without a firm commitment, it's difficult to invest in this regard. But a strong suggestion is to start looking at these kind of capabilities, because sometimes is playing a key role in awarding a contract. So companies which are able to demonstrate and to provide a level of engineering adequate are for sure in a position of advantage compared to the others, even if, as I said at the beginning, maybe small companies with a lot of expertise on a particular activity on site are capable to perform even without the engineering support.
Thank you, Fabrizio. And I'll make sure to switch up the order next time, so you don't have to keep following Sid.
Okay.
Thank you. John, same question to you. You know, what specifically do these smaller firms need to be preparing for now, looking at the contract particulars for, you know, surety, environmental and safety records, insurance requirements, things like that, to be a successful bidder on some of your work? But then also, what can they be doing now to position themselves to be successful?
Yeah, of course. Well, at the danger of sounding like a broken record from Sid and Fabrizio, then it's the same kind of answer, really, because if you consider DEME and Prysmian and Siemens Gamesa and all the people on the call today, we're all clearly very active in Europe and globally, and by and large, broadly speaking, we all follow the same kind of principles, you know, when it comes to safety and quality. So they're obviously very important factors, safety being the governing body there, closely followed by quality, really. Two of the same thing in a way. We do have supplier assessment processes that are well established, as do all of these companies, you know, and all I can say is we probably have to tweak them a little bit as we expand into the US market. But ISO standards, as was mentioned by Sid initially, yes, of course, that's a governing factor, international standards. But in terms of what companies can do now, then I think it's probably best for them to reach out, really, you know, for them to come to us, or like I said, I think we've got an IPF forum, is it called, in Atlanta coming up, or whatever. I think a lot of industry players are going to attend. We will find suppliers there as well. So that probably answers that side of it, Will. But just to keep it as brief as I can, you know, yeah, we want to find a lot of credible suppliers in the US area, and we will tweak our systems accordingly to make sure that that works efficiently.
Excellent. Thank you, John. And Fernando, last but not least, again, can you give us a little bit of particulars on what contractors need to be prepared for, or potential suppliers need to be prepared for, and what can they be doing now to position themselves to be successful?
Yes, for sure. Good question. At Siemens Gamesa, we just released a new target for us, for our suppliers, regarding the ISOs. So right now, from October 2020 this year, 2022, we're gonna be requiring at least 3 ISOs from our suppliers for critical suppliers, critical service that we have. So the ISO is 9001, 14001, and 45001. These are the 3 ISOs that we are requiring for all critical service and also all high-risk products related to quality and safety requirements. And also during our qualification and onboarding process, if we have an internal process that we're going to be considering low-risk products and also low service in terms of low risks for service as well. And for this kind of service, these requirements are do not apply for them. But our team, we're gonna do a kind of a risk assessment related to for the controls that we may have in place. So those are the guidance that we have, and the safety is becoming it is the first priority for Siemens Gamesa, and that's why from October 2022, all suppliers that we have in our database worldwide, we have to, for critical service, we have to keep at least 3 ISOs for our suppliers related to critical service and critical products.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. And kind of building on that, what's going to be your company's approach and expectations in engaging these small businesses here in Virginia?
That's for me, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, we as I was, we have to do a better, I would say, deep dive process for containing for all local suppliers that we have at Virginia to understand in the first place what kind of ISOs they do have in place for the service that we would like to hire them to provide to us. And for the suppliers that we think, right, they are, I would say, capable to perform the job or to perform the service or providing the product that we need, right, something like that, our supplier quality engineers will be investing in developing them as well and helping them to create somehow, to obtain these ISOs, or also to look if there is any compensating control in place as well. There are some specific processes internally under supplier quality development that we also can use for suppliers that we think will be a partner for us, you know. So we can, but first we have to understand our all the local suppliers that we are not following right in these requirements that we have, and for the ones that we think it's important for our business, we have to create somehow some action plans to develop them. Yes, and we have a for fiscal year 23 especially, right? So
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll go in reverse order this time then. John, can you tell us about a little bit of what your company's approach is going to be to engage these small, local, diverse businesses here in Virginia?
Yeah, of course. So I think I have to correct myself first. It's not Atlanta, the IPF Business Offshore Networking Forum. It's in Atlantic City. But of course, we're going to go there, as I would imagine everyone on the call will go there. And this is a common route that we kind of use, you know, widely used in Europe as well, you know, to facilitate networking and introductions to new people, suppliers to whoever. And this will be our first port of call, really, in terms of trying to just drum up interest from local suppliers, do some groundwork, of course, before we go, you know, see who the exhibitors are and who all the attendees are, and try and pick out who we think we would like to talk to. Plus, I would also urge the audience to do the same, you know, to pick out people like CJAX and Demi and everyone really on the call. I would imagine they're all going to go there, and just to pick them out and come and see them, introduce themselves, tell them how they want to get involved, and then we can just take it from there. Really, that's the first stages. Of course, as time goes on, and it's like what Sid was mentioning earlier, you know, all this activity seems to be a long way off, but it's not. It will come around very quick. So this is an area that needs to be looked at continuously, really, from sort of now on.
Excellent.
Also, Will, sorry, I should just add that I assume everyone else is the same as well. We're members of the VMA. You know, everyone's seek to join that organisation. So, of course, there's an audience there. There's a networking opportunity there with lots of local suppliers and contractors.
Excellent. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Same question to you then. What's the best way for the small, diverse suppliers in Virginia to get in touch?
Well, we can share the email address, a couple of email address of the people involved with the project and with procurement activities, in order eventually to share some company brochure or to present the services that each company can provide. If then we will think that there might be an interest, usually the process of Prismian consists on a portal in which the companies are requested to sign a non-disclosure agreement and to register, providing a set of information. Then I would say that they need to wait, basically, Prismian to issue the tender documentation. I'm not sure if I'm almost sure that in 2022 we are not going to issue any tender for this specific project, but at least we can use the time to get to know each other and trying to build up a kind of database of potential subcontractors that we may use in the future.
Excellent. Good deal. Not going to leave you out of this one, Sid, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to some additional questions we have coming in through the chat. I'm going to follow suit and assume that Demi's response is going to be very similar to Prismian, seeing as how you guys are so close at the hip right now.
Yeah, but just one thing, Will. You're right. It's going to align very closely with Prismian, but I do want to stress that we're developing a new industry here, and there's going to be many folks. There's 200 probably right now in the audience that still have a lot of questions, and so there are no questions that are too simple. Just please feel free to make sure that you respond to our site and ask any questions. We'll help connect those dots for you. If it seems a bit intimidating right now, it is. All right, and but we'll do everything that we can do to help answer your problem, answer your issues, and try to get you comfortable with what we're doing. So sorry about that, Will. Just wanted to add that.
Excellent. Thank you, Sid. So let's move on to some of the questions we have down here. Let's look at this one specifically. Sid, I'll let you follow up on this one. Are there any specific training requirements prior to be considered a supplier, such as certifications? I know we've mentioned ISO before, but any others that jump out at you that people need to be prepared for?
Is this question
Sorry,
to me?
you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, I think I'll start with our OSHA requirements and the standards that revolve around OSHA training for activities that are going to be involved onshore and offshore, and we have the GWO requirements if you're going to be working offshore with us. So there are a lot of other types of training requirements and certifications needed to work offshore, and we can get into that as well. I think perhaps Pieter, if you want to respond to the offshore activities, that might be helpful.
Yeah, indeed, Sid. Thank you. So, yeah, as you say, for offshore works, typically, I think like for the other suppliers, everybody who needs to go offshore on a vessel, for example, will need to have certain standards like GWO and so on, courses for boat landing access, etc. But that is something which we typically also will support our suppliers with. And furthermore, within DEME, we also give them specific trainings at the start of the project, depending on what the scope is. For example, for onshore works at PMT, there will also be DEME trainings for involved subcontractors and actually newly hired personnel. So we will support everybody in that process.
Okay, well,
Right. Thank you, Pieter. Thank you, Sid. So in the interest of time, I do have a couple of statements here to make. One of them, we did see a few questions come through the chat on trades and union labor. So we do want to stress that we do have an MOU with the North American Building Trades Union and their Virginia affiliates. The individual suppliers will negotiate and execute a project labor agreement with the NABTU and Virginia Building Trades. Announcements will be made once agreements are reached on that front. So any additional questions on union labor, we can talk about it then. Moving on here, there's quite a lot of questions. I'm sorry we can't get to all of them, but I do want to do a quick wrap up. And with our time coming to an end, this is concluding our time for questions on this Friday forum. So on behalf of Dominion Energy and our partners represented on this panel today, especially the Hampton Roads Alliance, we do appreciate them hosting this. But I'd like to thank everyone for their time and participation in today's forum. And I'll hand it back over to you, Matt, for any follow-up.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, I want to express my thanks to you and especially to Fabrizio, John, Fernando, and Sid for just a fantastic discussion. I think this went a long way in helping Virginia businesses get ready to work with your companies on the CVOW project. I also want to say that this is really the start of a broader supplier engagement process that the Hampton Roads Alliance and others will be working with Dominion Energy and these suppliers to connect businesses to opportunities on the CVOW project. So please be looking forward to more activities, hopefully in-person activities around supplier engagement from the Alliance and our partners. And also go ahead and register your company with the Virginia Supply Chain Directory at vaoffshorewind.org when you get a chance. So thanks again to our panelists, and we appreciate your attendance at the forum.